Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Members of the panel, brothers and sisters, distinguished guests and visitors. Media Takeover of Kings and Kingmakers. One of the most popular proverbs in English is, who pays the piper calls it you. In other words, the person who is paid, the person who is paid has the right to tell the piper what to play. And nowhere is this more evident than in the media. The journalist writes what the owner wants him to write, whether they believe it to be true or not. The editors and columnists support the line of the owners and do their best to oppose anyone who they consider to be against their way of thinking. So depending on which side of the fence you are sitting, a particular media company, be it print or broadcast, can make or break you. In other words, can make you a king or make you a pawn. This happened in the recent US presidential election, when the media empire of Robert Murdoch put its entire weight behind the opposition to then Democratic candidate Barack Obama. If you watch any of his TV stations or read any of his newspapers, and he has several all over the world, you could not fail to see the bias and the unfair reporting that Obama received. At the same time, his opponents were shown in the best light, even when they fell flat on their face, as in the case of Sarah Palin. The campaign against Obama was relentless, but this time they failed in their objective. But I can relate from personal experience one instance where one media house was able to depose a leader and elevate their choice to power. Let's go back a few years to when the world was a little different place. At that time, the world was divided into two camps: Western capitalism, led by the US, and communism, led by the Soviet Union. A little bit similar today, but back then the enemy, quote unquote, of the West was communism. Today we know who they perceive as their enemy, but that is a different story for a different topic. So in this so-called Cold War was played out in many countries, from Vietnam to Cuba to my hometown Jamaica, which at that time was led by a socialist prime minister, Michael Mann, who had the audacity in some eyes of visiting Cuba, communist Cuba, and promising to walk with the mountaintop with President Fidel Castro. In the opposition was the right wing, extreme right. He was right of Ronald Reagan. He had the backing of Jamaica's most influential media house, which published the Daily Gleaner newspaper. Now, the Daily Gleaner is one of the oldest continuously published newspapers in the Western Hemisphere, and has been around from 1834. And for many years, Jamaica's only daily newspaper, until 1973, when the Daily News came along and mounted a challenge. The Gleaner's influence in Jamaica is far and wide. And of course, it was financed and supported by the merchant class, for want of a better word. But for those of us who know, Jamaica is a mountainous country, lots of towns and villages. But you could live in the farthest reaches of the hills. The Gleaner will be at your doorstep before 7 o'clock every morning. So to say it was influential is probably an understatement. So back in 1980, when socialist Manley called an election for late in the year, the Gleaner went into full combat mode to discredit Manley and his party, and on the other hand, to glorify the opposition, led by Sierra. Negative stories were carried daily, and columnists vilified Manley, to the point that one even calling him a dog. In Jamaica, that is even worse of an insult than in the Muslim world. Manley's link with Castro were played up to the hilt, and the communist tag was applied to him and his party. The Gleaner not only aims toward the money and the middle classes, but poor small farmers were told that when communism came in on the Manley, when communism would come in on the Manley if he won the election, if they had 2 cows, they would have to share one with the neighbor. If he had none, this is the kind of propaganda they spread. The Daily News, the other struggling daily, tried to rally to the cause of truth and fairness, but was soon lumped into the communist camp by the Gleaner. The whole society was polarized along different camps like never before. And when a neutral party like reggae singer Bob Marley tried to diffuse the tension by holding a free concert, he was also painted as supporting Marley and the government. And an assassination attempt was actually made on his life. There were foreign agents from up north coming into the country to destabilize the government. And gun violence escalated, hundreds were killed. A new phenomenon for the country at the time. The Gleaner, of course, blamed Marley for all of this and continued a relentless campaign. And in the end, Marley suffered a heavy defeat to Siaga in the election. A few years later, the Daily News suffered a similar fate. It was also shut down by the Siaga government. Since then, the Gleaner's position as a leading newspaper has been eroded by the arrival of a new daily, The Observer, that has brought a more balanced scene to the media. This is just one example of how a very powerful media organization can make or break a political leader or another media house. The next time you hear a report about some leader or organization, do not take it lightly. Look behind the source and see who benefits by swaying your opinion, one way or another. Some media organizations don't hide their affiliations. You can tell their position just by who they are. But others are more hidden, and you have to look behind the scenes to figure out why they're carrying a special story, why they are trying to influence you, who they are trying to break down. Just last week, a story surfaced in one of our daily papers here that Iran is just a few days away from making a nuclear bomb. Now, who could have such detailed information? And who could benefit from trying to scare us with this information? Maybe not that particular newspaper itself, but the source could be some other entity preparing to become a kingmaker in Iran. Mark few words.